Hi, my name is Daniel. Thank you all for joining us here. I'd like to give one of my professors actually a chance to introduce himself and explain why he's here.
Hi, Daniel. My name is Warren Harrison. I've been a professor at Portland State since 1988. I enjoy working with students, and I'm really glad to have this opportunity to speak with Daniel about meeting with your instructors and professors.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. So I guess one right off the bat that I can think of is how do you think students should start to build connections with professors when they do come to university?
Oh, that's an excellent question, Daniel. Um, and it's very important that you do build those connections. I mean, it's a resource that you have available. Unfortunately, not a lot of students take advantage of that. Um, the best way to get to know your professors, of course, is to meet with them outside of class. This is a little awkward nowadays, of course, because of the COVID situation. So a lot of what I'm talking about may not actually be applicable for another few months. But clearly, one of the things you want to do is that once we reopen operations on campus is to be on campus. We see many students who just basically show up for classes and then disappear. And you lose a lot of access to a heck of a lot of really valuable resources when you do that. So if you want to get to know your professors, there's a couple of ways to do it. One is, of course, is during their office hours. You can come by if you've got questions about the class. If you have questions about the class, you should definitely come by and talk to your professors during office hours. There's no question about that. If there are other aspects of the class that seem interesting, most professors are going to be extremely willing, in fact, very happy to talk to you. If you want to know more about maybe the history of some aspects of the stuff that you're studying, if you want to know what their applications are, what comes next, and things like this. So it's always valuable to come in and talk to your professors about that. If you're interested in general career advice, it's always a great opportunity to come in and talk to your professors and ask them, what some of their ideas and things like that might be. And if you find that your professor is actually doing research in a field that you're interested in, that's a fantastic opportunity to come by and strike up a conversation. Again, it's a little more awkward nowadays because we're doing everything over Zoom. And so it's not the sort of the thing where you're walking by, you see the professor's door open and you just knock on the door and come and say, hi, I'm in your class and I noticed that, or I realized that what you're talking about is really related to this thing I'm interested in. Most of the things we have now are not quite as spontaneous as that, simply because you have to make those sorts of arrangements to connect by Zoom and things like that. So it's a little tougher now, but hopefully we'll be beyond that in a few months.
Yeah, hopefully.
Now, one thing that is interesting at PSU, the way we have things set up, is the academic advising, in the sense of which classes you have and things like that, have been over the years now very carefully demarcated. So we actually have a professional advising staff. And so if you have questions about what classes do I need to take to fulfill my junior cluster, or what classes are necessary for admission to the program, those questions ordinarily will go to our advisors, our professional advisors. And faculty in most cases are not going to be as prepared as they would be to be able to answer those sorts of questions.
So would you say then maybe talking to professors are more subject matter focused and career oriented focused rather than technicalities of your college career?
That's correct. And again, I'll point out that's for PSU. That's how we
Yeah.
do things here. Other places may have different kinds of arrangements.
Sweet. And then also, I guess, touching on connecting with your professors, are there any common missteps or anything you notice students kind of making when they try to connect with their professors or maybe don't try to connect with their professors?
Well, I mean, a common misstep is sometimes dragging the conversation on too long when you know there are people waiting.
Hmm.
So if you have a legitimate question about the class, that's clearly fine, right? To take as much time as necessary to get through that, because our whole goal is for you to understand what we're trying to teach you. If you want to talk about just uh, the general uh, uh, climate of the industry, and you look out and there's five people in line on the door behind you, that might be the best, might be a good time to excuse yourself. That is a really common misstep, and it's a little on the frustrating part because you don't really want to kick someone out of your office. But on the other hand, you see this line of students that are queuing up at your door. So I would say, when you are meeting with the professor, be sensitive to the fact that there may be other people who need that time as well.
Okay, awesome. I think I just kind of have one more question for you. So do you have any like tips for students? Maybe I know that especially for when I first started university and even a little bit now, that I get nervous trying to talk to professors. So I wonder if you have tips for students kind of to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, I probably the main thing would be to have some sense of what you're going to talk to them about when you show up. If you just kind of show up at the door and stand there, but yeah, I think that bringing up uh, common technical interests, like for instance the topic of the course and things like this, um, should give you something to talk about. It's always uncomfortable. I'm an introvert, believe it or not, Daniel. I'm an introvert, and it's difficult for me to just sort of like cold call people. But it's just something, it's one of those things you have to kind of get over. Uh, you know, Professors are no different than anybody else, right? They're regular people, and so you shouldn't really be uncomfortable coming up to talk to them. But obviously, I realize people are.
Great answer. I guess is there anything else you want to let the students know, maybe for their college career? Anything else you want to say to them?
Well, I would like to point out that these connections with your professors are extremely valuable. Um, it seems like it's a long way off, but it really isn't. In 4 years, assuming you're a freshman, in 4 years or five, you're going to be on the job market. You're going to be wanting letters of recommendation from professors, and it's really important that they can kind of associate a name with a face and with some sort of uh, uh, remarkable things that you've done. I can't tell you how many letters of recommendation I write where pretty much the only thing I can say is, yeah, this student was in my class. They got this grade. Um, that's about it. Uh, so it's good to be able to have a professor go, yeah, I know this student. They contributed greatly to some of the work MESA did. He was in my a couple of my classes. Did really well. That's a much better letter than yeah, I could tell this person was in my class because I went back over my enrollment sheet from 3 years ago and I saw their name.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking this time, Professor Harrison. I know my students are gonna love this.
Okay, Daniel, thanks so much for the opportunity.
Yeah.